My name is Olivia, and this is a story about my grandmother. It is also a story about a secret hidden in an old letter. My grandmother was a wonderful woman. Her name was Clara. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. Her hands were always busy, knitting or baking cookies or tending her small garden. I loved spending time with her. She told me stories. She taught me how to bake. Her house always smelled like cinnamon and old books. It was a happy place, a safe place. A few months ago, my grandmother passed away. It was a very sad time for our family. We all missed her so much. Her quiet laugh, her gentle advice, the way she always knew how to make things better. After the funeral, my mother and I started sorting through her belongings. It was a difficult task. Every object held a memory. Her favorite teacup, her reading, glasses, the soft shawl she always wore. We were in her bedroom. It was a small, sunny room. Dust motes danced in the afternoon light. I was carefully emptying the drawers of her old wooden dresser. Underneath a pile of neatly folded linen, I found it. A letter. It was an old letter. The envelope was yellowed with age. It was sealed. The edges were soft. I looked at the front of the envelope. The address was smudged. Some of the ink had faded. I could only make out a few words of the town. It was hard to read, but then I saw the name it was addressed to. My breath caught in my throat. My heart gave a small, sharp jump. The name was Ilara, and below it, my dearest sister, Ilara. Sister? My grandmother had a sister named Ilara? I had never heard of her. Never. My grandmother always said she was an only child. All her life she told us that. My mother also believed her mother was an only child. This name, Ilara, it shocked me. Deeply. Who was Ilara? And why did my grandmother hide her existence from us? I held the old letter in my hand. It felt fragile, like a piece of glass that might break. So many questions filled my mind. Why was this letter here? Sealed? Never sent? The smudged address made it impossible to know where it was supposed to go. I showed the letter to my mother. She was just as surprised as I was. "Ilara?" she said, her voice full of confusion. Mother never mentioned a sister. Are you sure, Olivia? Look, Mom, I said, pointing to the faded ink. It says, "My dearest sister, Ilara." My mother sat down, on the edge of the bed. She looked pale. I don't understand, she whispered. All these years, why would she keep such a secret? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the letter, about Ilara. Who was she? What happened between her and my grandmother? A whole person, a sister, erased from our family history. It felt strange. It felt sad. The letter was a mystery, a piece of my grandmother's past that I never knew. I felt a strong urge to open it, to read the words my grandmother had written. But it was sealed. It was not addressed to me. It felt wrong to open someone else's mail, especially my grandmother's, especially a secret one. What should I do? Maybe you have felt like this, faced with a choice that feels both right and wrong? The next day, I started to look for clues. I went through old photo albums. My grandmother had many pictures of her as a young girl, pictures with my grandfather, pictures of my mother growing up. I looked carefully at every face. Was there another girl in the photos? Someone who looked like my grandmother? I found nothing. No sign of a sister named Alara. I asked my great-aunt Martha. She was my grandmother's cousin. She was very old. Her memory was not always clear, but I hoped she might remember something. Aunt Martha? I asked gently. Did Grandma Clara ever have a sister, maybe named Alara? Aunt Martha looked at me with her faded blue eyes. She thought for a long time. Clara? She said slowly. No, dear. Clara was an only child. Her parents only had her. I am sure of it. My heart sank a little. Was the letter a mistake? But the handwriting looked like my grandmother's. I had seen her writing many times. I looked at the letter again. The paper was thin. The envelope was a pale blue color. I tried to see through it, holding it up to the light. But it was no use. The words inside were hidden. The smudged address was still a puzzle. I could make out the letters Oak and Ville. Oakville? Was that a town? I spent hours on the internet, searching for towns named Oakville. There were many, all over the country, all over the world. Which one could it be? The letter looked very old, perhaps from 50, 60 years ago. It was like looking for a tiny needle in a giant haystack. Days turned into weeks. The letter sat on my desk. Every time I looked at it, I felt a pull towards the secret it held. I felt closer to my grandmother, yet also further away. She was a woman with a hidden story, a story I wanted to understand. I talked to my mother again. Mom, I said, I can't stop thinking about this letter, about Alara. Don't you want to know? My mother sighed. She looked tired. Olivia, dear, she said, your grandmother lived a long life. She had her reasons for keeping secrets, I suppose. Maybe it's better to let it rest. Some things are best left in the past. I understood what she meant, but I couldn't let it rest. It felt important. It felt like a piece of my grandmother was calling out to me. One rainy Saturday, I was alone in the house. I picked up the letter. My fingers trembled a little. I thought about my grandmother, her kind eyes, her gentle smile. What would she want me to do? Would she want her story to be known? Or would she want her secret to stay buried? I took a deep breath. I made a decision. I had to know. I carefully, very carefully slid my fingernail under the flap of the envelope. The old glue was dry. It came open easily. My heart was beating fast. I felt a little guilty, but also a strong sense of anticipation. I pulled out the folded sheets of paper. There were 2 pages, the same pale blue as the envelope. The handwriting was definitely my grandmother's. It was neat, a little bit shaky, but clear. I started to read. My dearest sister Ilara, the letter began. It has been so many years. 30 years. 30 long years since I last saw your face, since I last heard your voice. I wonder if you ever think of me. I think of you every day, Ilara. Every single day. My eyes filled with tears as I read. My grandmother's voice seemed to come from the page, a voice full of sadness and longing. Do you remember Papa? The letter continued. Do you remember how strict he was? He never understood our dreams, Ilara. He never understood us. When you decided to leave, to follow your heart, to go with him, Papa was so angry. He said you were no longer his daughter. He forbade me to speak your name. He forbade me to contact you. My grandmother was talking about her father. My great-grandfather. I remembered him vaguely from old stories. A stern man, a man of old traditions. I was young then, Ilara, Grandma wrote. I was scared. Scared of Papa. Scared of being alone. So I obeyed. I kept silent. I let you go without a word. It is the biggest regret of my life. My silence. My fear. The letter went on. My grandmother wrote about her life after Ilara left. How she missed her sister. How she always felt a part of her was missing. She wrote about meeting my grandfather, about getting married, about having my mother. She said she wished Ilara could have known them. Papa passed away 10 years ago, the letter said. Mama, 5 years after him. I am alone now in that sense, free to write to you, free to try and find you. But so much time has passed. Are you still in Oakville? Are you happy, Ilara? Did you find the life you dreamed of? So, Oakville was the town, and Ilara had left with someone her father disapproved of. My grandmother had been forced to cut ties with her own sister. My heart ached for both of them, for the lost years, for the broken bond. I want to see you again, Ilara. The letter concluded. I want to tell you I am sorry. Sorry for my silence. Sorry for my fear. I want to tell you I have never stopped loving you. You are my sister. Always. I hope this letter finds you. I hope it is not too late. With all my love, your sister, Clara. I finished reading. Tears were streaming down my face. I held the letter to my chest. My grandmother. My kind, gentle grandmother. She had carried this secret, this pain, this longing, for so many years. She wrote this letter, but she never sent it. Why? Was she still too scared? Did she not know how to find Ilara? Or did she write it and then lose her courage? The smudged address. Maybe she tried to send it, and it came back. Or maybe she wrote it, hoping one day she would find the strength, or hoping perhaps that someone like me would find it after she was gone. Words from the past, her words. Reaching out, I felt a deep sadness, but also a profound understanding. My grandmother was not just the sweet old lady I knew. She was a woman with a history, with regrets, with a lost love for her sister. It made her more real to me, more human. I showed the letter to my mother. She read it slowly. She cried too. "Oh, Mama," she whispered. All those years she carried this. We sat together for a long time, just holding hands, talking about Grandma Clara, about the sister we never knew. Now we had a new mystery. Was Alara still alive? Could we find her? 30 years had passed when Grandma wrote the letter, and the letter itself was old. Maybe another 20 years had passed since then. It seemed like an impossible task. But I wanted to try. For my grandmother, for Alara, for the connection that was broken. I focused on Oakville. I searched online again. This time, I looked for older records, for people named Alara who might have lived in an Oakville many years ago. I looked for the man Alara might have left with. Grandma's letter didn't mention his name. That made it harder. My mother helped. We looked through more of Grandma's old papers. In a small, dusty box, hidden at the back of a closet, we found another clue. A very old, faded photograph. It showed two young women. They were laughing. One was clearly my grandmother, Clara, younger, her hair dark. The other woman looked like her, same eyes, same smile. She was beautiful. On the back of the photo, in faded pencil, were two words, Clara and Alara, summer 1952. This was her. This was Alara. Seeing her face, so young and happy, made her real. It made the search feel even more urgent. Next to the photo was a tiny, folded piece of paper. It was a very old newspaper clipping, a marriage announcement. Mr. Daniel Porter to Miss Alara Vance. Vance? That was my grandmother's maiden name. So, Alara Vance married Daniel Porter. The clipping mentioned they planned to live in Oakville, Maryland. Oakville, Maryland. Now we had a specific place, a full name for Alara. Alara Porter. My heart beat with excitement and nervousness. What if we found her? What would we say? What if she didn't want to know about us? Or what if she had passed away too? My mother and I decided we had to try. We started searching for Alara Porter in Oakville, Maryland, or for Daniel Porter, or any children they might have had. We used online search engines. We looked at public records. It took many days, many dead ends. Then we found something, an obituary for Daniel Porter. He had passed away 5 years ago in Oakville, Maryland. The obituary mentioned his beloved wife, Alara, and it listed their children, a son named Michael Porter and a daughter named Susan Porter. Alara was alive, or at least she was alive 5 years ago. Her children, my mother's cousins, my cousins once removed. A whole family we never knew existed. My mother was very emotional. My aunt, she kept saying. I have an aunt. We found a phone number for Michael Porter. He still lived in Oakville. My mother was too nervous to call, so I did. My hand was shaking as I dialed the number. A man answered. Hello? "Hello," I said, my voice a little unsteady. "Is this Michael Porter?" "Yes, it is," he replied. "Mr. Porter," I began, "my name is Olivia, and I am calling about your mother, Alara Porter. Her maiden name was Alara Vance." There was a silence on the other end of the line. Then Michael Porter said, "Yes, that's my mother. Who is this, please?" I took a deep breath. My grandmother was Clara Vance, Alara's sister. Another silence, longer this time. I could hear him breathing. Then he said, his voice full of surprise, "Clara? My mother had a sister named Clara? She never spoke of a sister. Just like my grandmother never spoke of Alara. Two sisters, separated by a family feud, by fear, by silence, for almost their entire lives." I told Michael the story. About the letter. About finding it. About our search. He listened patiently. He was shocked. He said his mother, Alara, was still alive. She was old, in her 80s. She lived in a small nursing home now. He said she was often sad. She often seemed to be thinking about the past. We arranged to visit, my mother and I, to meet Michael and to meet Alara. The journey to Oakville felt like a dream. My mother was nervous. I was nervous too. What would Alara be like? Would she remember Clara? Would she want to hear her sister's words? We met Michael at a small cafe. He was a kind man. He looked a little like the photos of my grandfather. He told us more about his mother, how she was a quiet woman, how she loved to paint, how she sometimes mentioned she missed her old home but never said why. Then we went to the nursing home. Michael led us to Alara's room. He went in first. We waited outside, our hearts pounding. After a few minutes, he came out. He smiled at us. "She wants to see you," he said. We walked in. Alara was sitting in a comfortable chair by the window. She was small, frail. Her hair was white, but her eyes were the same as in the old photograph, the same as my grandmother's eyes. She looked at us, a look of confusion, and then a flicker, a spark of something. Recognition? Hope? My mother stepped forward. "Aunt Alara?" she said, her voice soft. "I am Catherine, Clara's daughter." Alara's eyes widened. She reached out a trembling hand. My mother took it. "Clara?" Alara whispered. Her voice was like dry leaves. "My sister Clara?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and in my mother's eyes. And in mine, I had my grandmother's letter with me. I asked Alara if I could read it to her. She nodded slowly. So I read. I read Clara's words. Words of love, of regret, of longing. Words written so many years ago. Finally reaching their destination as I read, Alara cried, quietly, her hand holding my mother's tightly. When I finished, she closed her eyes for a moment. Then she looked at us. A small, sad smile touched her lips. "Clara," she said. "She remembered me. She loved me." Yes, my mother said. She loved you very much. She missed you always. We spent a long time with Alara that day. We showed her the old photograph. She touched her sister's face on the faded paper. She told us small things about her childhood with Clara, about their stern father, about her love for Daniel Porter, about leaving home. She said she had tried to write to Clara once, many years ago, but the letter came back. Her father had returned it, unopened. After that, she was too heartbroken to try again. She thought Clara had forgotten her, or hated her finding that letter, reading those words from the past. It changed so many things. It brought healing. It brought understanding. It brought a family together. My mother found an aunt. I found a great aunt. Michael and Susan found cousins. Alara and my mother talked on the phone often after that. We visited her again. She passed away peacefully a year later, but she died knowing her sister had never stopped loving her. She died knowing she was not forgotten. My grandmother's letter was a secret, a sad secret, but it was also a gift of connection, a gift of truth. It taught me that families are complicated. People have hidden stories, hidden sorrows. It taught me the importance of reaching out, of trying to understand, before it's too late. Sometimes the past holds words that need to be heard, even many years later. If you have old family stories or unanswered questions, maybe it's worth looking a little closer. You never know what beautiful or sad or healing truths you might find. Keep your heart open to the whispers from the past. They can teach us so much. Thank you for listening to my story.